welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to be filming the recipe for my potato zucchini casserole for you guys. And first of all, what you are going to need is you're going to need potatoes, zucchini, onions, if you want a clove of garlic. Also, you're going to need some kind of tomato sauce. Now, I like to make a tomato sauce, you know, with a little bit of minced meat in it. It's not really a bolognese sauce, but sort of like that. And you're also going to need some cheese to put on top. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is take your potatoes and peel them first and then cook them. So now I have 5 medium-large potatoes and I'm going to peel these. I like to keep the ratio potato to zucchini more on the potato side because the more zucchini you put in there, the gooier and the slipperier it gets. So if you want your casserole to be, you know, nice and firm so that it doesn't just fall apart on the plate, add more potatoes. It's really going to help. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and peel my potatoes, and then when they're peeled, I'm going to put them directly into the water so that they don't oxidize. Okay, I have all of my 5 potatoes peeled, and I'm just now realizing that my pot is a tad too big. So you want the water to cook relatively quickly, because otherwise the timing of the whole recipe won't really, you know, fit, because I want these potatoes to be cooked and cooled down by the time that I'm done with the sauce so that I can just keep going and not have to wait. So I'm going to go ahead and pour all of this into a smaller pot. Okay, we are all set. Now all I need to do before I cook is add some salt to the water. You can be generous with this because the zucchini, we're not going to salt them at all. So basically all the flavor that you're going to get is going to come from the sauce and from your potatoes. So you don't really want bland tasting potatoes in there. Okay, now I'm just going to turn on my stove and let these buddies cook. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to let it boil. And then once the water is boiling, I'm going to set a timer for 15 minutes, and after 15 minutes I'm going to take them out of the water and let them cool off. Okay, now that I have my onions taken care of, I'm going to start on my sauce. The first thing I'm going to do is dice up an onion. So this is a relatively small onion. If your onion is like one of the big ones, take half of one. And also the clove of garlic. And I'm just going to put that into my pan, saucepan, and then just kind of saute that a little bit. So I would like to point out right off the bat, anybody who's watching this who knows anything about cooking will probably cringe at my dicing an onion. I suck at this, and I cry like crazy. So if this isn't pretty, I apologize. Okay, so now I'm going to put some oil. This is just, I don't even know what kind of oil this is. You don't want to use olive oil for this because olive oil turns bitter if it gets too hot. So maybe like some sunflower oil or something like that. Something that doesn't have its own taste. Or you can also use butter or coconut oil. So I'm going to just put that in my saucepan and then throw in my onions and start sauteing them. And once I've put my onions in the saucepan, I'm just going to also dice up my clove of garlic. And the reason I'm doing this later and not at the same time is because garlic also turns bitter if you leave it in too long. So I try not to, you know, put the garlic in right off the bat. So my potatoes just boiled. I took the lid off a little bit, and now I'm just going to start my timer on 15 minutes. So you want to glaze your onions and your garlic until they're kind of like see-through. You don't want them to turn brown because that's going to change the taste of it. Then once they're ready, you're going to take your minced meat, or if you're not doing minced meat, just, I don't know, use tofu or do whatever tomato sauce you like, and just dump that in there until it turns brown, and then we're going to continue. Be quick about, you want the temperature to be nice and hot so that you don't lose a lot of the juices that are in your meat. Okay, now that my meat is cooked through all the way, I'm going to be adding my pureed tomatoes to this. You can also use diced tomatoes or whatever you like. And then I'm going to stir. Alright, so this is the part where you want to season it. I'm definitely going to be adding salt and pepper, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so what I have here is some salt, some pepper, and some nutmeg. I'm just going to be adding all of those three generously in here. Again, remember that your sauce is going to be the only thing giving your casserole flavor. So this isn't exactly like when you're making spaghetti with tomato sauce or something, where the taste of the tomato sauce is really going to overpower you. You really want this to taste extremely salty, or just generally you want to be able to taste all the spices that you used, because otherwise you won't be able to taste anything in the casserole. Again, as you can maybe tell, I am not using measurements of any sort or form. So basically all I'm doing is winging it. And for me, I cannot really cook. This is basically one of the very few things that I actually can cook that don't taste like they came out of a package. So I usually just kind of wing this and hope for the best. Alright, so my potatoes just got done. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually test if they are cooked all the way through. So for that, you want to take a sharp knife and just kind of poke it in. And if you feel a lot of resistance, which I am, then they're probably not cooked through all the way. So I'm just going to give them another 5 minutes. In the meantime, I have already cleaned up my kitchen space here, and I set my finished sauce to simmer. And now I'm just going to set up for the rest of my casserole. Okay, so 5 minutes are up, my potatoes are ready, and now I'm just going to drain them, and then I will have to let them cool off before I continue working with them. There we go. Now I have to wait until these are a little bit cooler before I continue working with them, but in the meantime I can already start heating up my oven. I set my oven to 180 degrees Celsius, and I will just wait for that to heat up and for my potatoes to cool down. In the meantime, what I can do is I can start slicing up my zucchinis. So I have this really nice little gadget here. If you don't have one of these, then just use a normal knife, it'll work just fine. Got done with my first zucchini, and I believe, looking at how much this is, I'm just going to leave it be at one zucchini, and I'm going to figure out something else to do with this one later on. I'm going to start prepping my casserole form. So I have this one right here. It's made of porcelain, and you have to make sure that this is able to go into the oven. My mistake the first time around was that I took one that I thought was good for the oven, and it turned out it wasn't, and it was a huge mess. So try to learn from my mistakes, kids. Okay. So again, I'm going to take my oil of choice, and I'm just going to pour that in there generously. And then you could use some kind of utensil to spread this around. I usually just take one slice of zucchini and just kind of cover the entire inside of my casserole form. And then I'm going to start my lower layer on the casserole with zucchini. Covered the entire bottom of my casserole form, and now the next step would be to put a little bit of sauce on there and then continue with a layer of potatoes. Considering that the potatoes aren't done yet though, I'm going to have to wait for that. Okay, so I've let my potatoes cool off, and now I'm going to slice these. Now I have little slices. Apparently this potato is not really doesn't really work well for this, so these are less slices and more puzzle pieces. So I'm going to wash this off, and then I'm continuing with a knife. Now that's taken care of, I'm just going to continue slicing the rest of my potatoes using a regular old kitchen knife. Now that I have everything prepped, I have my zucchini, I have my potatoes, I have my sauce, I'm going to start stacking this in there. So I already have my lowest layer of zucchini done. So next step is adding a little bit of tomato sauce. My next layer, and this is going to be a layer of potatoes. Okay, layer 1 of potatoes is done. Continuing on with another layer of tomato sauce. I finished the layers on my casserole. Now all I need to do is sprinkle the cheese on top. All covered with cheese, and I'm going to pop this into the oven. I usually set a timer for 20 minutes because basically all of your ingredients are already cooked or can be eaten. So the zucchini, because they're such thin slices, they're going to cook through really, really quickly. So when your potatoes are already cooked and your sauce is already completely cooked. So basically all you need to do with the oven situation is melt the cheese on the top and kind of help meld all of this together, which doesn't really take all too long. So I'm just going to pop this in the oven for 20 minutes, and after 20 minutes I'm going to, if it's not molten yet completely, I'm just going to continuously check in on it. Okay, now that my casserole is in the oven, I have 20 minutes to clean up my entire kitchen, and then I will get back to you guys. Okay, you guys, 20 minutes are up, and it is time to take the casserole out and eat it. But before we do that, I'm just going to finish this video really quickly. So if you like this video, go ahead, give me a thumbs up, and if you have any other recipes that you would maybe like me to try out, go ahead, comment them down below. And if you're not subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. And yeah, so I hope you guys like this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!